Gangster movies give an insider's look at corruption in a dramatically satisfying way that other movies can't. While Goodfellas and The Godfather are some American classics, there are some great foreign gangster movies too. These are some of my favorites. This British gangster movie by Stephen Frears is the only one that doubles as a buddy road trip. It follows an ex-criminal turned informant living in Spain who's captured by his associates and taken back to Paris to face the consequences. The main character, played by Terence Stamp, is humorously zen and nonchalant throughout, like a British version of The Dude. Tim Roth and the late John Hurt shine as the hitmen. Roth plays the hot-headed apprentice of the grizzled John Hurt, and their dynamic makes them a bumbling duo. The gangsters don't seem particularly good at their jobs, which also calls to mind the Coen brothers movies. While there isn't much knowledge to be gained about the criminal underworld, it's well worth it just to spend time with this quirky cast of characters. The Hit is a hidden gem definitely worth checking out and the most lighthearted movie on this list. City of God is a coming-of-age tale set in a Rio project of the same name that spans the late 1960s to the early 1980s. The main character narrates the rise and fall of a sadistic young gangster who becomes a big-time trafficker and starts a drug war. It's been compared to Goodfellas because of the narration and freeze frames, but they feel completely different from each other. The movie owes its realism to the residents of the favelas, who were cast in the majority of the roles. Because the City of God was going through a drug war at the time of shooting, the crew had to shoot in a different neighborhood, employing locals for security. The movie doesn't shy away from showing the collateral cost of organized crime, but it also humanizes the people involved. Tokyo Drifter is a groovy Yakuza flick that Quentin Tarantino borrowed from for Kill Bill. It tells the story of Tetsu, a former hitman who wanders around Japan and fights other gangsters. This gives the movie a cowboy western feel. Tetsu is just like Toshiro Mifune's character in Yojimbo or Clint Eastwood's in the remake A Fistful of Dollars. The movie does a good job at illustrating the importance of loyalty in the Yakuza hierarchy. Even though Tetsu's gang doesn't exist anymore, he still lives by the code and doesn't even take revenge after his boss sends a hitman named the Viper to kill him. This is definitely the most stylish entry in the list. Unlike Tokyo Drifter, A Prophet is the furthest thing from pulp. It's a realistic French prison drama about rival Corsican and Middle Eastern mafia groups. Instead of offering a typical rise and fall story, it succeeds as a satisfying redemption tale, a welcome breath of fresh air for the genre. Usually, a mild morbid curiosity keeps you invested in an anti-hero character, but here you actually want to see the main character succeed because he's an otherwise decent guy forced to do bad things. His mixed race gives him an underdog quality in prison, which he ends up using to his advantage, and adds questions of identity to the movie's themes. All of this gives A Prophet a less cynical feeling despite its brutal nature. Director Jacques Audiard incorporates an interesting mix of realism and occasional stylistic flourishes that somehow never seem out of place. Gomorrah is a biblical play on words referencing the Neapolitan crime syndicate, the Gomorrah. Like the movie Traffic does with the drug trade, it follows multiple storylines to show how the mafia spreads corruption into every level of society, from waste management to the garment industry. This uncompromising and gritty vision is the furthest thing from a Hollywood production, definitively deromanticizing gangsters. Centered in a world of poverty and struggle, much like City of God, it's completely enthralling and truly disturbing. Martin Scorsese, who backed the US release of the movie, had this to say about it. It's really an indictment, not only of Italy, but of the entire modern world. In my view, this is what the real world is like, the world slightly below the surface. Scratch that surface, even lightly, and you'll find this up there on the screen.